This extraordinary 18th century coach was last seen being pulled through the streets of London in 1953, carrying Queen Elizabeth on the day of her coronation. Now, to mark her Platinum Jubilee, the 260-year-old gilded carriage was equipped with modern technology, allowing archival footage of that day to be projected onto the windows. I'm Crystal Goomansingh. Thank you for joining us for this special program in recognition of the Queen's historic milestone. The iconic Tower of London is our backdrop as we take you through celebrations marking Her Majesty's 70-year reign. It is unlikely in our lifetime we will see another monarch anywhere achieve such an anniversary. During her decades on the throne, central London has changed dramatically. Hallmarks of history stand tall, creating a beautiful blend of past, present, and future. While the Queen has been a constant, even she has evolved. Her ability to adapt and push forward just a few of the attributes cherished and celebrated. In a sea of celebration, a unified message of pride and appreciation for the Queen.
She's just such a good worldwide symbol. Everybody respects her. So yeah, she's an amazing lady.
We are from Japan and we've been living here, and then the royal family is part of us now.
A Platinum Jubilee is unprecedented. For 70 years, she has been a steady guiding hand at home, across the Commonwealth, and wherever duty has called. Remember, she was the first royal woman to join the Territorial Auxiliary Service as a full-time active member during the Second World War.
I don't think we'll ever see a monarch reaching this milestone again.
We just love the Queen. We just wanted to come and see this while she's still around.
Health issues have slowed Her Majesty somewhat recently, particularly her mobility. After contracting COVID, she commented on how exhausted it made her. Thousands doing their part on this day to lift her spirits as she has theirs.
I think the tremendous enthusiasm that we've seen from the crowds today when they saw the 96-year-old Queen on the balcony, a sight we've been wanting to see for so long. I mean, this was pleasure unalloyed.
While many older citizens here feel deeply connected to the Queen, the only sovereign they've known, Her Majesty's charisma does cross generations.
The Queen came to Birmingham for the Diamond Jubilee. Yeah. So Mum took me to see the Queen, and then the Queen asked my mum how old I was. I was wearing this headband here, and I'm wearing it now.
We're having so much fun. It's so good to see her.
The festivities led to a chance meeting for these two, an American and a Canadian, who last saw each other camping out for Harry and Meghan's wedding in Windsor.
It is totally remarkable. And what's interesting is, when we've talked about this, is you really have to be here. You have to be here. You have to be amongst everyone to feel it.
And we saw that energy and convergence of past and present with the lighting of beacons. They were once used as a tool of communication, but now a special royal sign of celebration. With a touch, the Queen sparked a chain of lights from Windsor Castle to Buckingham Palace and thousands more across the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth. After that beacon lighting at Windsor, the Queen withdrew from several of her celebration appearances. At 96, her stamina isn't what it used to be. Palace officials routinely say that she is in good health, just needs time to rest and recharge. She also has mobility issues. One royal expert says the Platinum Jubilee could be a means of her setting her house in order.
She wants to see her family together. We know that we are now entering the Queen's twilight years. I think everything we're seeing is that the Queen wants all those loose ends tied up. She wants to go knowing that everything is in check, knowing that her grandchildren are at least on talking terms.
I'm joined by my colleague, Amanda Connolly. She is a senior global news journalist. Amanda, we've had a chance to be out and talk to a number of people, and the Queen's age is brought up often, but it is such a sensitive topic.
It really is a delicate dance, and you're hearing this out on the street with people too when they're walking around, you're talking to them. Everyone is really cognizant of the 70 years, the momentous occasion of this. But of course, with that comes that realization that, as we've heard here, she is towards the twilight of her reign. There are natural questions here about what will come next and what the future of the monarchy is going to look like.
And people often bring up family and their bond with their own families, and there is this unwillingness or maybe just a fear to acknowledge she may not be with us much longer.
Absolutely. Of course, this is the only queen that so many people have really known their entire lives. Of course, she means so much to so many people. We've heard that again and again on the streets here, talking to people, to Canadians here in London. And that really is the big question here, is again, the impact and kind of what the effect that she's had on so many people is. You talk to them and they, whenever people are talking about conversations with the Queen, really it is those commonalities of bringing up the family, sharing the stories of the grandchildren, the family, the children, things like that, that really conveys that human element and that warmth that has left such a lasting impression with them.
Absolutely, and that timeline, just, how much more time do we have? And I think everyone's really aware of that. Amanda, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Her Majesty's health kept her from attending the big party at the Palace concert. As the name suggests, it was an outdoor musical spectacle. But on the same day, there was also a security scare. Redmond Shannon reports.
A nervy start to a huge weekend in London. Police carrying out a controlled explosion on a car in Trafalgar Square, less than a kilometre from Buckingham Palace. Apparently a false alarm. Across the UK, royals, young and old, touring on behalf of the Queen. Princess Charlotte conducting in Cardiff. Sophie and Edward attending Jubilee events in Belfast. At the prestigious Epsom Derby, Princess Anne awarding the trophy, a late stand-in for the Queen, resting after experiencing what the palace called some discomfort during Thursday's parade.
It was 3 or 4 years when she came down into Windsor.
Exactly. Instead, new footage released of the 96-year-old monarch tending to her horses in Sandringham.
Would you like another one?
Her lifelong passion for horses visible, an indication she wouldn't have skipped the Derby without good reason. Of course, the Derby is an annual horse race, but this weekend is a one-off historic event, culminating in Sunday's pageant here along the Mall. But before that, Saturday night's party at the Palace. Canadian Deborah Davis came to sample the atmosphere, attending her third Jubilee, having lived in London during the previous two.
Oh, this is a bigger one. I mean, she's, been around for so much longer.
Davis met the Queen on the Royal Tour of Canada in 1994.
And we talked about her past visits to Canada. And she was just darling. She was sweet and she was kind and she makes people feel good.
The Queen's ability to put people at ease and make them feel important is something people who have spent time with her say is one of her superpowers. Marnie Blunt shares a remarkable story about a Manitoba farm family who had the chance to see a very different side of the monarch and her family.
Prince Philip, at one point, and I was hoping this would happen, he said, "I think we should have a family picture."
It was a remarkable royal experience that Brian Bailey will never forget. When the royal family visited his father's farm near Carberry in 1970, there was no media, no fanfare, and no tiaras. Just a family enjoying rural Manitoba farm life.
The royal family are such professionals at dealing with people that they put you at ease immediately.
Bailey's father, T. Roy Bailey, was named Mr. Manitoba Farmer of 1967, leading to his potato farm being selected to host the Queen, Prince Philip, Prince Charles, and Princess Anne during their royal visit in 1970.
Of course, when you're invited to host the Queen, you don't say no.
The family arrived on a Sunday, staying on the royal train overnight, and as avid horseback riders, rode all around the farm.
These horses don't always want to be exhausted like they were on the Sunday evening by Charles and Anne.
After riding Monday, they had a garden party in the Bailey's backyard.
She and my mom chatted about family things, It was just like having the relatives in for coffee.
The Queen even taking her own photos of the occasion.
I was the only person taking pictures besides the Queen. She had her Nikon camera, and I had my cheap little Olympus pen camera, and she never did share those photos with me. I'm not sure why. But anyway.
It was a way to escape the pomp and protocol of a royal tour.
They're just very ordinary type people. The Queen especially, and Philip. Prince Philip spent most of his time chatting with my brothers about farming.
A relaxed side of the royals not commonly seen by the public.
The Queen sort of sat in at one of our lawn chairs, you know, and just as you could see, she was just soaking up that lovely summer day. Princess Anne, she got on one of our lounge chairs, and it was as if she was out sunning, you know.
How do you feel?
Great.
Bailey was able to coordinate another meeting between his father and the Queen and Prince Philip during their visit to Manitoba in 2010. The Queen quick to greet Bailey during an event at the Legislative Building.
She went right directly to you. Did you notice that?
T. Roy Bailey passed away 6 months after that meeting at the age of 95. This royal experience is one that the family will cherish forever.
No limousines, no crowns, just ordinary people.
Marty Blunt, Global News.
Over the span of her reign, the Queen has outlived or outlasted a multitude of world leaders. When she was crowned 70 years ago, Winston Churchill, Harry Truman, Joseph Stalin, and Louis Saint Laurent were in power. She has endured 14 British prime ministers, 12 Canadian prime ministers, and some 170 Commonwealth leaders. The Queen has been a constant during the past 7 decades, but her empire has reduced over that time, and many see the world shifting further away from the monarchy. Ross Lord reports.
As a beloved icon, the Queen still draws big crowds, especially in London on her Platinum Jubilee. But with changing views about the damaging impacts of British colonialism, there are growing questions about how long the royals will remain relevant.
The royal family has been through a bit of a reckoning in the past few years. Prince Andrew, what's happened with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle as well as the royal tours not going so well earlier on this year, and some island nations in the Caribbean talking about removing the Queen as head of state.
Barbados has already split from the monarchy, shedding ties with its historical British oppressors. Among those leading the charge was this Canadian woman, who was born in Barbados and now teaches at McGill University.
It's a psychological message of you no longer control us, even though they haven't been for years. But you don't longer control us. We're looking you now in the eye as equals.
At Prince Charles and Camilla's royal tour of Canada last month, modest-sized crowds still mustered enthusiasm.
We've grown up with the royals and tradition all our lives. You know, the Queen is our head of state.
Stop it. Just stop it. We have fun here. Go away. They've done nothing wrong. It's the politicians.
But public opinion polls indicate more than half of Canadians want to break with the monarchy, a sentiment that's grown in recent years and may continue to as Canadians reckon with the Crown's connection to Indigenous residential schools. Other countries, like Jamaica, could soon break away, and more may follow.
And I think it will be countries that we don't expect, like Canada, like Australia, that will say, you know what, the royal family doesn't really work for this new multicultural country that we are building.
If Canada ever does split from the monarchy, it would take a lot of effort, including amending the Constitution. Some say it's more likely the royal family simply becomes less important and less interesting to citizens, their influence gradually fading away. Ross Lord, Global News.
The debate over the future of the Queen and her role in Canada is a complex issue for Indigenous people who have lived on the land long before it was a nation. As Abigail Beeman reports, the Jubilee sparked renewed questions about the monarchy's role in reconciliation.
The Indigenous relationship with the British Crown dates back more than a century before Canada's Confederation, when the first land treaties were signed.
We have a very special relationship with the monarchy because of that relationship through treaty.
Over 70 years on the throne, and on each visit to Canada, Queen Elizabeth paid special focus to the relationship with Indigenous communities, including travel to remote areas during eras when the journey was more complex than it is today. But while there has always been some excitement surrounding visits and frequently even warmth for the monarchy among many Indigenous communities, for countless others, there's also profound disappointment and distrust.
I'm so angry. My anger is so deep.
For Beverly Jacobs, a Mohawk woman from Six Nations, 70 years on the throne is nothing to celebrate. She calls it 7 decades of what amounts to silence on missing and murdered Indigenous women, residential schools, and treaty violations.
To try to erase us as a people, you know, they've never taken responsibility for that.
Some find hope in the appointment of Canada's first Indigenous Governor-General, Mary Simon.
I am sorry. I am more sorry than I can say.
Others in the recent apology for residential schools from the Archbishop of Canterbury, the spiritual head of the Church of England. There are formal calls for the Queen to apologize too, most recently from the AFN's national chief directly to Prince Charles during last month's royal visit. But there are a multitude of perspectives.
I think that's a waste of energy and time.
It's not just an apology we're calling for. I hope people realize it's the call to deal with this.
A call for change and action to right wrongs past and present as the relationship between the Crown and Canada's Indigenous people moves forward. Abigail Beeman, Global News, Ottawa.
Abigail mentioned the Governor-General in her story. Mary Simon has been a part of the celebrations for the Jubilee here in London. Global National anchor Donna Friesen sat down with her to learn about her experiences.
You have met the Queen, and what was that like for you?
It was a lovely visit. She was very engaged and very warm and friendly, and made you feel very comfortable in her home. The whole visit to me was a time for me to be able to express to her how proud I was to be her representative in Canada. She talked about her family quite a bit, and her children and her grandchildren, and that was very good for me because I love my grandchildren and my children, so it was a nice conversation to have.
You were the first Indigenous Governor-General of Canada. Can you talk to me a bit about why that matters?
When I was approached to become the Governor-General, I thought about it a lot, just thinking whether it was something that would be important for me to do for Canada. And I came to the conclusions that yes, it was a good thing and an important step in terms of working on reconciliation. Canadians had been talking for many years now on reconciliation, but there had been times where it was kind of very stalled. Mm-hmm. And the revelation of the unmarked graves, or the finding of the unmarked graves, really, I think, woke Canada up, because it made Canadians realize that they could actually see and feel the impact of what it meant in terms of Canada's history. And I do focus on reconciliation a lot because all Canadians want to see this reconciliation evolve and move forward.
Thank you so much for taking time with us.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Anytime Prince Charles says the word mummy, people around the world react. Maybe the smiles and chuckles are because we don't often think of the future king as the Queen's little boy. But Charles, Prince of Wales, gave his mummy a warm and fitting tribute.
Your Majesty, Mummy. The scale of this evening's celebration and the outpouring of warmth and affection over this whole Jubilee weekend is our way of saying thank you. You have met us and talked with us. You laugh and cry with us. And most importantly, you have been there for us for these 70 years. These pictures on your house are the story of your life and ours. So, Your Majesty, that is why we all say thank you.
As a part of a palace party where Charles gave that touching speech, drones were used to create cute corgis in the sky and even jumping horses. One of the Queen's greatest loves is horsing. She has a keen interest in breeding and bloodlines, owns racehorses, and up until recently, she still rode. The RCMP have given her 8 horses over the years, and as Donna Friesen shows you, one of those played a starring role in trooping the color.
For decades, this is how the Queen led her birthday parade, on horseback, riding side saddle, dressed in a scarlet military uniform. For 18 of those years, she rode the same striking black mare named Burmese.
Her favourite horse ever was Burmese, who was a gift from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, who was her her most reliable horse.
Born in Saskatchewan, Burmese was bred to be a police horse, but when the Queen, who is a keen and skilled rider, was looking for a new horse, Burmese was offered as a gift. Sergeant Major Scott Williamson is the RCMP riding master and has met the Queen several times.
Her Majesty herself is an amazing horsewoman, very accomplished horsewoman, knows horses in and out, and takes a very special interest in her horse riding skills and equitation skills.
In 1981, those skills were put to the test.
Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, Colonel of the Grenadier Guards.
During her birthday parade, 6 shots rang out, startling Burmese and the Queen.
You hear a bang and you think, what the blazes is going on? It could only be something, could be a firearm.
The Queen quickly got control of the horse, gave her a reassuring pat, and carried on calmly. The man who fired the shots, which turned out to be blanks, was apprehended.
She doesn't panic, however grim the situation is. She just doesn't panic. And the Queen's main concern was Burmese, and Burmese was fine.
The bond was unbreakable. From 1969 to 1986, the Queen rode Burmese in every trooping the color. And she rode her for pleasure, too. Here she is with former U.S. President Ronald Reagan. She on Burmese, he on another Canadian horse, Centennial. Her love of Burmese was unmatched.
When Burmese retired from parades and public duties, the Queen said, right, I'm retiring too from those. I'm not going to ride anymore because without Burmese it won't be the same.
From then on, the Queen rode in a carriage. Burmese lived out her years on the grounds of Windsor Castle, where the Queen could visit her, and when the horse died, she was buried on the grounds of the castle, a rare honor. In 2005, Queen Elizabeth went back to Saskatchewan to dedicate this statue outside the legislature. Her beloved black mare lives on in the place where she was born. Donna Friesen, Global News.
Well, we rarely hear from the Queen, but when she's around horses, she just seems to light up. We leave you with some images of Her Majesty recorded in April and some other sights from her historic Platinum Jubilee celebrations. On behalf of the Global News crew here in London, I'm Crystal Goomansingh. Take care.
But never behaved as though she'd always been there.
I know.
Extraordinary girl, aren't she? Yes. There we are.
Yeah.